Can you hear me? Can you? Okay, thank you.
I can hear you.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me now?
Hear you fine, Sam.
Testing, testing.
Still hear you fine.
Testing, testing. Can you, okay. Okay. Can you speak to see if it's coming through? Anyone?
Sounds good to me.
Me too.
Me too.
I don't know what the hell is going on.
Can somebody else talk again, please?
Hello. Oh, have cannot start video.
Output volume.
I'm talking now.
How do you do that?
So
Mark
go
is
down
talking.
by the speaker.
Yeah, it says it cannot start video. Please select another video camera, it says. I'm gonna come back in again. I'm gonna leave and come back in again.
Here we go. Testing, testing. Yes, no?
I can hear you.
Okay,
Cool.
I can hear you fine.
okay. Sorry, folks. We just got off another subcommittee meeting and all right, so let's look at the agenda for today. We have the usual welcome, consider themselves welcome. Subcommittee progress reports, and then prep for the 12:15 work group meeting, and decide on presenters and adjourn. So let's look at. It looks like Mary will be here representing the one subcommittee, and we have Marge and Mark. So why don't we start with you, Mary? What updates do you have for the order?
So I've looked over the document that you put in the last document that you sent out to us, so the stuff we were supposed to do. So I looked over that, and that's about it. I wasn't sure if there was anything else. I think that was it. So yeah.
That's what we have, yeah, so far. Let me look at the notes here. So so do you have any thoughts on Corey's document as to, you know, other channels or other mechanisms that you would recommend go forward for the notifications?
Yeah, I looked through it and I was just thinking, I know we mentioned this last meeting, but I was thinking the mailing idea was a really good idea. Just continuing to look at the list of things that he had on the thing, and also just maybe going into just figuring out ways to like stimulate the youth in this, because it seems like a lot of them like there's like Facebook and stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that you would have to be like connected to. You have to like follow the Benton County Instagram or something. You have to be like, you have to already kind of know about it to get the notification, and you have to kind of already be interested, but to actually be introduced to the idea, it would be pretty hard to be introduced to it, because you kind of have to already be in the loop to get the information. I guess something else that I noticed, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's.
So in a perfect world, recognizing that we certainly don't live in one, broadly and in the time crunch with this work plan here, is that to the extent you and Louisa could, you know, put together a one-pager, for lack of a better term. It could be half a page, it could be 2 pages, whatever number of pages you think is appropriate for the fuss. indicating that, so far, what the subcommittee has done has been to look at what the county's default approach is. And here are our additional suggestions and necessary steps in order to make those channels available for the reasons you just said. If they're not, people don't know about them, then they're not going to be on it. So how do we get people to know about them and communicate out? And then similarly, take the sections of our last running report from meeting 2, and you can just copy and paste those notes and add to them to create this, very beginning report out to the full work group for what happens on Thursday. You can take any portions of pages really 6 and 7 from that report and use them as you deem appropriate. Yes,
Right,
Mark.
so
Go ahead, Margie.
Can I bring up a point, which is that we also discussed the notifying the neighbors of CUP public notices coming up. And I looked at the paperwork that you submitted, Sam, I guess was submitted by Darren and Greg Verrett. And apparently, according to county law, they are required to only inform people within 750 feet of within a farm or forest zone. That's a 1/10 of a mile. So that is kind of absurd. And it goes on here to say, at the same time, the code states an intent to notify property owners who could be affected by the proposed land use decision, and states that additional notice beyond the distances listed above may be provided, in quotes, where the county in its discretion deems additional notice to be appropriate. And that looks problematic to me.
So just to be pristine in my clarity, those are the minimum requirements. You are not bound by the minimum requirements. Your subcommittee can write.
I'm not saying that, Sam. I'm addressing the issue that the neighbors continually brought up, which is that they were not notified in advance. And this document says that only if they lived within 1/10 of a mile of the landfill were they required to be notified. And that I just think is wrong. And I think that's something that the work group should address. Maybe not in this context, but in another context.
So I think we're having a communication flyby, and I apologize if I'm scattered from just being off the last subcommittee. I am trying to make it pristine in my clarity that this subcommittee should recommend that the notification to the neighbors be whatever it is, within, I'm making this up, 10 miles, all the neighbors within these zip codes.
Okay, yes, I vote that we make such a recommendation.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm suggesting is you got the legal parameters just as a base condition. You are not at all restricted by.
No, I understand that, Sam. I'm just saying that that is apparently what they used the last time with the last CUP. And I think it's pretty mind-boggling. And I really think that ought to be in some prominent place in the work group product.
Go for it, is what I'm
How?
saying.
What do you suggest?
Task 2 of this subcommittee's scope is kind of set up to specifically address that issue, where the
This
issue
one.
was that, yes, this one.
Yeah.
That last time the CUP notifications were abysmal at best, and that obviously has to be fixed because a
Yes.
1/10 of a mile is ridiculous.
Okay,
So the subcommittee, whoever's
can
doing
we
that-
put that somewhere in our written output? Can we put
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, so it's on page 7 of the document. It says create clear recommendations on best practices for county communications. Paren, during the last CUP, some of the neighbors did not feel the county communicated effectively. Next, these recommendations will be created by examining the minimum requirements. That's the stuff we added. That's just the starting point.
Right. And we can list those minimum requirements so people can see what you're building off of. Was that your question, Marge?
My question is, how do we surface this issue? And how, and yes, perhaps so, Amelia, maybe say, apparently the last time they went according to this legal definition, which is woefully inadequate. And I think you even had a better term, Amelia. I forgot what it was.
Abysmal.
That's what it was.
So from a process perspective, all we are suggesting on this call is that Mary and Louisa, who are, co-chairing this subcommittee, put all that down in the report that you're gonna, and bring this issue up on Thursday, but definitely it'll be followed through in the body of Subcommittee E's
Okay,
recommendation.
excellent. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so I have Mary, and then first, Joel, so you know how this subcommittee works. Is first I'm calling on the members of the subcommittee, and then you get in the queue after the members of the subcommittee talk on a particular topic, because you're a guest here. So Mary.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to kind of clarify. So you wanted me and Louisa to create like a 1-pager or whatever, something like a 1-pager, and then with our recommendations for like other communication outlets and how to do that, as well as like what Marge just brought up, to put that in there, and then to have that for Thursday to present to the work group. Is that what it is? Okay, all right. Just
That's
wanted
correct.
to clarify that.
And then the body of that will be expanded upon as you deem appropriate.
Yeah.
In the actual report.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
so then I have Ginger and then Joel. Oh, Joel took his hand down, but he can go
Oh,
after
how
Ginger.
about Mark?
I took my hand down just because you already
Oh.
called on me.
Okay.
Ginger?
My question, excuse me, is Marge, that document that you found that had the notification requirement of the 750, did you say it was 750 feet?
Yeah,
Was that just for CUPs? Is that for any kind of zoning
it says
change?
in the case of a conditional use permit or similar application,
Okay,
the development code, Yeah.
I was
and
just curious
Ginger-
if the notification requirements were different for like a different type of permit or something like that, or if that was meant to address
It
everything.
might be. Ginger, you have this document too. Sam sent it out. It's one of the 3 or 4 attachments that
Okay.
to an email about a week ago. And it may be entitled Protocols for the Timely and Broad Distribution of CUP Related Information. It looks like it's an opinion rendered by Greg Verrett and
Okay,
Vance Crowley.
okay, so, okay, perfect. Thank you. I just was curious where it came from. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it was specifically perhaps geared to this situation.
Got it. Makes sense.
So for compulsive clarity, it is a copy and paste from the legal subcommittee's work to date. And it may well be that Vance wrote it or Greg wrote it or maybe Jeff Condit wrote it.
Says it on here.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm saying, but whatever it is, that's what they sent over. And so that is the base condition in its current state. Mark?
First, I want to defer to Joel, if you have something to say, because I'd be the second one cutting him off.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I just wanted to chime in that as a landfill neighbor and someone who was actually within that 700-foot boundary or whatever it is, we did not receive notice until the very last minute on either of the CUP updates. So this has really been a big falling off for the county and it needs to be corrected. Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering is, should we make a recommendation of who should get contacted at this point? Should that be part of what Mary's going to submit, is say, and that might be an important decision if they're going to go forward with it on Thursday.
Well, okay, just to be clear, the work group on Thursday is not going to vote on 750 feet or 750 miles. They're just being updated on the current state of your thinking. So you can put a tentative proposal there and put something up, but there's not going to be an official work group polling on, is it 750 a mile, every zip code within 2 miles, whatever. But go forth and you can certainly raise your suggestion and then ask for feedback and get kind of a thumbs up, still too narrow or too broad, and then you get a sense of where the work group's coming from, and then you can fine tune it at your next subcommittee meeting.
Okay, well, at the minimum, if Mary thinks it's appropriate too, we should say that the notice needs to go out, let's say, at least 2 weeks before whatever we do next. Does that seem reasonable? And that'd be the time piece. And then the other piece is a little bit harder. I mean, everyone in Sub Creek is going to be affected by that if they go through there at all, and if it gets as big as they said. And I don't know, I think maybe that's the beginning point, is down to Adair Village and Soap Creek as a beginning point.
Anyone else have a thought on breadth of area of the notice? Other than
Your way you could tell me what I missed, or have I missed too much?
Is the county said, I sent to me, what their views of the basic legal parameters. There seems to be a clear consensus that those parameters are not sufficient notification. Question
I
becomes,
can't really understand you.
Yeah, I can't either.
Yeah.
Garbled. Not you either. Yeah. Neither of you.
Oh, I'm garbled too.
You're okay, Louisa.
so maybe if Marge controls, see what happens. We might see if that changes. Doesn't Joel?
Nope.
So it's something with the microphone, which is right here.
We can sort of understand you, but it takes some effort.
All right, different mic. Yeah.
I'm going to switch off my video just in case that helps a bit.
I think I kind of know what you're talking about when we would inform the public possibly before the CUP.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, that worked apparently. Okay,
So, yeah.
That's good.
and test.
Okay, so you guys can hear us now when it's not as garbled.
Right.
Thank you. Awesome.
So, because of the garbledness, what was the last thing you could hear relatively clearly?
Nothing. Nothing that you could said.
Or how much did folks fill you in the meantime while we were fixing our mic?
They didn't tell me anything, but I'm guessing that you're talking about when to notify the public about when the CUP gets appealed or whatever.
So there's two
Because
issues.
I heard 150 days, and I know that's from the stuff
So
you sent out.
There's two issues on the table, the best I understand it. There is a clear emerging consensus that there should be more and broader notification than last time. And that includes timeliness, includes who, and it includes how. Right now, we're simply focused in on you guys developing some subcommittee recommendations to test with the work group on Thursday. And let's just take, I think, what will be the easier one to get to yes to, and that is the radius of notification. And you can do it by way of saying feet, yards, miles, zip codes, whatever you think is appropriate. So let's deal with that. Marge.
Can we maybe put off this discussion because Mark is in finals week, and so he's shaking his head. He's okay. Okay, I thought maybe we could switch the two topics. Okay, he's okay.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So do you mean radius of notification? Because I read all the things you sent. Do you mean after the application has been complete or that stuff? Or do you mean ahead of time before the appeal or the new CUP request or whatever is put into, or is submitted to the county?
So I'm suggesting we start off with a radius of notification regardless of what it's for. So make it broad, inclusive for all the communications, but specifically to your question as to the CUP, we are talking the legal minimum apparently is 750 yards. You are saying that's too narrow a radius. Mark suggested Soap Creek and Adair Village. That's the current radius or distance on there. Does anyone have an idea other than that for you, Louisa and Mary, to throw out for the work group consideration on Thursday?
Well, I thought we already agreed that the whole county would need to be notified. So that's where I'm confused.
If you want to do that, if that's
Like
your
the post
subcommittee
with the postcards
recommendation,
and stuff.
if that's your subcommittee recommendation, you can make that. Marge?
The point though about the whole county is that that's a budget issue. And so it would be easier, it might be prudent for us to identify a smaller radius of people that would be obviously, we could do that within a budget. And those are the people that this is the most meaningful for. Then if it were possible to notify everyone by a postcard, then we could do that as well, but maybe have the two tiers there. Because it's certainly far more of interest to the people who live within smelling distance and hearing distance of the landfill than it is to me in Southwest Corvallis.
So I'm suggesting, based on that good comment, that you got Mary and Louisa, think of a table. And the first column on the left are all the potential notification kinds of things. Notification of the BCTT report. Next is a notification of Board of Commissioners hearing on the BCT report. Next is first notice of a potential pre-application meeting between Republic and the county. The next, it could be notification of dropping of the CUP. Next, it could be, I'm just brainstorming, it's not a complete list. Next, it could be, SWAC meeting. Next, it could be planning commission meeting. Next, it could be a board meeting. You can throw in there when the application is deemed complete. Those are, whatever the activities that you want notification of is the first column. Next column over is the when. When do you want that to happen? In our last meeting, I was proposing, and I think based on what you were suggesting, that, within 48 hours of the CUP dropping, there be a notification that goes out. Maybe you want to make it 24 hours, but you can then put the times because they could be different for each of those events. The next column over could be what it is. It's a postcard, it's an email blast, it's a, whatever mechanism you want in it. And then the next column over could be who it goes to. Everyone versus the neighbors within, what you call it, Mars, smell distance or something. What you can define it whatever you want, but think of it as a grid. I think that will help create clarity because these issues are all interrelated. Questions, comments, make sense, nonsense?
So sorry, I have a lot of questions. So then you want Mary and I to make a table like that?
I'm suggesting that you do so and make suggestions for each of the boxes then. And it could be, they're all the same on several categories, it's or same as above. Mary, thoughts, comments?
Could you put in the chat or list again those events that you said?
You know what might be better to do it in a separate email, and we can even dummy up the chart and then you do with it what you want to, but just but all those things I can put in. I mean,
Okay, yeah. Can you email that? That'd be great.
Yeah, it'll be an email and it'll be in a
Perfect.
chart. You guys can all edit it. Because
All
I'm
right.
sure I'll miss something. But I'm thinking in the left-hand column, a complete list of all the major things that people need to hear about. And then you got to figure out when that goes out to all those. Each of those events could have different dates. They could all be within 24 hours of it happening. You decide. And then who's getting them?
Would be good.
Yeah. And then who's getting them could, be different because some will be all county and some it could be, within. So let's get back to that column because we're almost there on the ones that are just the CUP centric. And these are all minimum notices. They're not the maximum. We're not saying this is all you should do because always more communication is better. But at a minimum, you are saying the current on that one column is Soap Creek, Adair Village. But that was just Mark throwing it out there to get reaction. So does anyone have a helpful amendment to Mark's suggestion? It's like, Mark, you convinced them. Joel,
Yeah, just was trying to find how to raise my hand. Yeah, it's not just Soap Creek and Adair Village. It's also the whole Palestine community and up into Polk County, as I've mentioned before. So there's a whole neighborhood that doesn't include Soap Creek and doesn't include Adair Village. So you need to hit all of them, including areas in Polk County, especially.
would this be clearer if we identified specific zip codes that would include those counties? I
No,
mean,
zip codes are no help. Zip codes, I have the same zip code as downtown Corvallis.
okay, so forget that idea. Lisa,
What about, I mean, Joel probably knows more about this. There's this group because I live in Lewisburg, and there's all these signs in people's yards that say like, sorry, Ginger, but like say no to the landfill or whatever. So is there a group of people in the area that would be a good resource for who would be really concerned?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I mean, Lewisburg area I didn't even think about them. That's another community over the hill. It's sort of on the other side of Soap Creek. You go over the pass and you get in Lewisburg. And they're also concerned about this. So I would just draw a big, if anyone has what are they called? Compass. We used to have those in old junior high drafting classes, just draw a big circle around the landfill, 5 miles, all directions. And that's the areas that are affected, down to Crescent Valley, perhaps, and up into outskirts of Monmouth.
would that be within the 5 mile radius?
I don't know. You could, I mean, yeah, I haven't drawn on a map myself. Just, you can, it's a good exercise. Monmouth is not actually within the 5 mile radius, and then also, I would also look at the transportation corridors, because the people that live along the main transportation corridors are the most affected by landfill expansions. So that would actually include Monmouth, Independence, the downtown. Every time you go through there at noon, there's a big backup in downtown Monmouth, Independence, outside the Burgerville. And some of that is trucks coming to and from the landfill, and the trash that goes all the way up to Rick Riel is trash coming from the landfill from trucks coming down here. And then south of there. So you need to look at both the radius and I would say also the transportation corridors by which people are hauling trash to the landfill.
So guys, go ahead and do it. I mean, this is subcommittee work versus I'm not putting my thumb on the scale of the substance. So I'm just trying to give you a framework. So the F to the Q is Ginger, then Mary.
So I have some pretty significant concerns about the direction that this conversation is headed. My understanding is that if we were going to make recommendations about the notification of a CUP filing, that it would apply to any entity that filed a CUP in Benton County. And it sounds like we are moving in the direction of setting up a specific range of criteria that is only applicable to Republic Services. And I can tell you that I am 100% not in support of that. I think that is grossly inappropriate for this subcommittee's work. I thought we were talking about something that was applicable to all of Benton County and, improving the business development code throughout.
So this issue has come up in other subcommittees too. And let me try to be as articulate as I can in my inarticulate state in the moment. The focus of Benton County Talks Trash is obviously dealing with the landfill and related SMMP issues. The work group as a whole could make a recommendation that says, for the next CUP, we think the following things should happen: A, B, C, D, and E. it that is simply a recommendation to the county. The county may, and I do not know, make the decision that, well, what's good for one application form is good for all of them. And we may have to amend, we may be able to do that without amending the code. They could say, we want to do some or all of these recommendations, regardless if we have to amend the code. They could say, well, we need to amend the code to do them. And we may break out communication protocols for large CUPs and small CUPs, but we would have to amend the code to do it. So the goal is to make recommendations you think fit the fuss, recognizing that they could be, your recommendations could be just for CUP, landfill expansion CUP, for all CUPs, for major CUPs. And then the board is going to do with them what they think is appropriate. And also, Ginger, I mean, like all these subcommittees, it could be that the subcommittee recommendation that comes out is going to be not a consensus. It could be X number of people vote for this various aspects of this hypothetical table that's going to be created. And it could say, you know, X people voted a 1 or 2 and Y people voted a 3. So it was a majority minority. Ultimately, BCTT will take the subcommittee's recommendations and opine on them on their own. And the vote could be different. It could be a consensus there. It could be majority minority there. Does that help? I may not be the answer you want to hear, but does that help understand the process?
No, I understand the process and I appreciate that. I do want to be on the record that that is not something that I or any representative of my company will support.
And that's that it applied to all, or what specific portion of the emerging?
That we apply a different standard for CUP notification and application to Republic services only.
But if it was the same, depending, of course, what it was.
Depending on the parameters, yes, if it was uniformly applied across Benton County's development and planning and notification codes and materials, then, you know, conceptually, yes, I could definitely see us reaching consensus on that point, depending on what the nuances are. I know we will be firmly in opposition of anything that sets a different standard just for us.
Okay, so the order of the queue that I have is Mary, Mark, and Joel.
Yeah, I guess I kind of just wanted to ask Joel a question. I was wondering, so you said the 5-mile radius and stuff like that. I was wondering what kind of tiering you were thinking for like specific events. So like, for example, like the communities really close to the landfill would need to know about the most pressing and most important like updates. What were you thinking of like how are you thinking of like tiering that out as to like what groups of people are like most in priority of the information and what groups aren't, to like know how to communicate the information to them, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good question, Mary. I don't have a sense of priority right now. I know that people are concerned all up and down the corridors, and some people are more concerned than others. And I guess my understanding was that this discussion was about how to notify people that might be concerned if there's an expansion planned. And I was hoping that the error would be on the side of notifying more people rather than fewer people, and also on the side of notifying people sooner rather than later. So I just wanted to advocate for notifying people as much as possible, as early as possible. But I don't have a sense of, you know, and I also hear what Ginger is saying, but I was raising my hand to comment on her comment and actually surprisingly support what she's saying. But I'll take that later after Mark has a chance.
Mark.
Okay, well, I think I view it that This is supposed to be optimal public participation on an issue that affects the whole county. And as Sam noted, it's not supposed to be, those limits are not maximum limits for notification. And so I think since we are in a position to make recommendations, I think we should recommend what we think is best for the county and for the larger decision-making process. And so I think that we go beyond the rules in this case. Now, that's my personal opinion, and I respect that Ginger will disagree and Republic will, but I just think that we have to look at it as our responsibility is a different and larger responsibility. And those are only legal minimums. They're not maximums of what we can do or what we can particularly recommend.
So it looks like I have Louisa, and then Ginger's appears to be applauding. And then we have
I hit the
Joel.
wrong button again.
You're what?
I hit the wrong button again. I was going to respond to something that Mark said.
Okay, go ahead and respond to Mark, and then Louisa, then Joel.
Okay, no, Mark, just to clarify, and I apologize if I was not clear earlier, I am not, and I don't think Republic is against broader notification in any sense of the word. I mean, we have notifications at requirements in other states and other counties. We have a closed landfill, for example, that I just did a notification for, and it was a 1 mile radius. So, you know, the conceptual idea of we need to be more aggressive than a 750-foot boundary is not something that we would necessarily oppose. What we are opposed to is setting a different standard for that notification just for Republic Services. If it's going to be 1/2 mile for us, then it should be 1/2 mile for anybody who files a CUP. That's the only thing I was saying. Thank you.
Okay, Louisa, then Joel.
Well, I just had an idea, or when I was reading through all this, I don't know if it's something to do, but but I have a question first. Did Corey say anything about the postcard or the okaying on the postcard notification for the whole county, or we don't know anything about that yet?
We hasn't responded back, but again, to underscore this, I don't want to saying it's what he thinks is irrelevant is too harsh. It gets back to what do you all think needs to be done? And
Okay.
then that's a recommendation.
Well, I mean, I thought when I was reading everything that as early as possible, letting many people as we can know about what's going on. I know we already have been doing we did the open house and everything, but like if we did do something like the postcard information to the whole county, we could, through that method, have a way for people to sign up to be notified, or so then we would know who really wants to know. And I don't like to have a link to go sign up for more information, kind of like when you go somewhere and sign up for the email list or something. And that could be helpful to, yes, of course, notify everyone in the 360-degree radius or whatever we decide, but there could be also some other people that really want to know that are in a different area, and they could initiate that. Because it seems like everything the county has done to notify people are places that you have to be following. And from what I saw from the list, like you have to be following them on Facebook, on Instagram, getting their newsletter. You have to have initiated wanting to follow the county, which honestly, I never did until the last few weeks. So and I've lived here a super long time, so a lot of people might not do that. So then they could initiate saying, you know, I want to do this. But anyway, that was just my idea.
Thanks. And please include it. When in doubt, include it, because we're just in a draft, stage putting forward. So Mary, then Joel.
Yeah, I was just gonna second what Louisa said. I really like the idea of sending a postcard to like the whole county, for example, and then having some way for them to sign up for more information. I think that's an excellent idea. I think we should definitely present that to the work group. I think it's a great idea.
Great. Joel.
Yeah, I would like to receive notification as a neighbor of the landfill. But I'm strangely finding myself on Ginger's side here because I think you really are in the position of setting up a special case for public services. When you start talking about what's a more significant CUP and a less significant CUP, those are qualitative judgments. And I think you're getting into deep water without a personal flotation device when you do that. So I think you really need to, this whole process to me has been set up somewhat outside of norms to deal with a particular CUP. And I think that's where we actually are getting into problems here. So I think you need to get away from that and think about what are objective standards that could apply to any CUP where anyone is concerned. Everyone, if CUP affects what happens in the yard right next door to you, it's of your personal concern. So there's no more significant CUP and no less significant CUP from the standpoint of an individual Benton County resident. So I think you really need to get away from that idea and talk about how you're going to deal with this objectively. Thank you.
Mary,
Oh, sorry, my hand was still up. I meant to put it down. My bad.
so there's a way to balance these interests, and that is there, I don't envision a system for the Ginger have indicated that you would just have these close categories of small and large, just for lack of a better term, and that be the only criteria. You would have a tiered system. Certainly, any CUP that's within X, I'll use miles for an example, X feet, get it no matter what, small, medium, or large. So you would have that across the board notification because of impact. And that's what the minimum is in the code now. The question becomes, at least, do you want more than that? And the answer seems to be yes. More notification, more frequently, a lot more people being notified. So within those broad parameters, propose what you want, and then we could fine tune it. And you can make a recommendation. Yeah, we only want one rules of notification for all CUPs. You could decide you want to make a recommendation for more, but we're not at that point in the conversation, nor are we going to get there between now and Thursday's work group meeting. So you can take it up in January. Mary and Louisa, besides us getting you a very rough table, do you need anything else from us for purposes of putting together a document to share with the work group on Thursday?
Well, Mary, could we talk or email back and forth about it? Because otherwise, I'm fine to make the table. I just think we need to talk about it probably for a few minutes or something.
Yeah, I can definitely email you about it tonight or something. That would work. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that'd be good. And as far as what Sam said, I think just the table would be great. Like just a little rough outline of the table, and then a list of like the events that would be like relevant to notify people about that you think, just the things you listed before. So yeah, for me that's all. But.
And then in a perfect world, you would send the Mary and Louisa product to the rest of this subcommittee for them to comment on, because they may say, "Oh yeah, you missed this," or "Oh yes, let's make it shorter or longer."
Sounds great.
And given the timing, it's not ideal for many reasons. If you send us whatever you want to deliver to the work group by Thursday morning at 10, we'll get it posted and bring copies because we leave here, Portland at 11:30. So as long as you get it to us by 10, it gives us an hour and a half to make copies, pack, get on the road, get to you. So let's segue to the Marge and Mark show. And you guys can give us an update on where you are and what your thoughts are. Oh, Louise, you had a question first? Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, you need us to deliver it by Thursday morning, is that what you said?
Thursday morning at 10.
By 10,
Whatever,
okay.
whatever the product is. And the reality is, I don't think we've had enough time to work the substance to fairly report out that Subcommittee E has reached a consensus on X. Unless by chance your draft that goes out to the work group comes back and they say, thumbs up, good to go. So Mark, opportunity, chances if any of you had to.
Sure. I'll do a talk and start, and Marge can correct everything I say wrong. Okay, so we looked through the historical timeline, and we've looked through the other historical materials. And here's kind of what we're envisioning. First, that existing timeline that's built from newspaper articles, that should be an appendix. That is just too much stuff, and a lot of it's not particularly relevant, but it's probably all good to include into a large record. So we figured that would be an appendix. And what we would do is create a timeline that reflects the history of the area to a degree, the rising need for a landfill system in Benton County and the region, when Coffin Butte became a landfill site. And then we'd focus on the major points in the history of ownership, operation, and county oversight and permitting of the landfill. So those would be particular areas that we develop a little bit more. We want to have a narrative that's a readable narrative of about 10 to 15 pages, plus the timeline. And we would discuss the area's original development and resources, how Benton County and the region settled on Coffin Butte as their major landfill site, how ownership and operations of the landfill changed over time, key aspects of how Benton County has done oversight and permitting regarding the site, and key times of public concern regarding the landfill. So we were supposed to have some questions we would put to the people on the 15th. And these are what we started with: is how long should this paper be, this little abbreviated history be? We plan to focus attention on the Coffin Butte area itself as much as just dumping issues. And we want to make sure that's okay with the committee. We plan to mention key points, particularly since 1950, regarding ownership, operations, and permitting, and to reference people to other parts of the larger report. Well, we're going to ask them if that's what they want us to do. We're going to ask them if there's things we must keep in the history or that we haven't mentioned. And we're wondering if we can use Whitcomb to draw some of the narrative from. Joel, we looked at your stuff, and we feel like we can kind of do it without having to draw directly from you if you're concerned about that. Okay. It's really interesting, but that's stuff you can find in like history of Soak Creek Valley and these other things that have been published in other sources. I appreciate what you wrote though.
Yeah,
So
I'm happy with that as long as I don't have my own words munged up. So thank you.
Marge, any additions, subtractions to what Mark said?
No, I think you did a great job outlining what we see as a good history document for this work group product. One thing I did want to make sure that we did cover though is that I am gonna have to leave early from the meeting on Thursday. I'll probably have to leave 6:15 or so. And we're scheduled to give the report at the end of the meeting. And Mark has agreed that that he would give the report and he could do it at that time. But he can only take 2 hours to to be at the work group meeting on Thursday. So can we get kind of a clear schedule of when we need to report?
Well, as I think I sent an email out, but I was waiting to see if there's any other limitations that people have, and then I would take all those limitations from the other subcommittees and try to create the Pareto optimum schedule. Margaret, let's just start with, are you okay with the period of time where it is, or would you? And then secondly, do you have a preference as to where it is?
I could take any 2-hour block, but I mean, I could probably do 4 hours, but I have other things I really want to do rather than spend 4 hours to give a 15-minute presentation. So I'm hoping we can get within a 2-hour thing. I know I want to go.
And he's not on the work group, which is a distinction.
No, that's fine. I mean, we've had Paul Neefeld make report outs to the whole work group, and there's no reason to do anything different than let who you want to present on that.
Yeah, so at the end's fine, at the beginning's fine.
Okay. Well, it would probably. Are you going to do it in person, or are you going to do it by video?
Well, I think I'm going to go in person.
Okay, so if you can do it during that time slot and come, before. Frankly, I mean, given your schedule, if you want to come for that 15 minutes period of time or whatever it is, you can come 15 minutes before that and leave after it, or spend the other time listening in to the other reports. It's totally up to you. But it's, we're going to be relatively on schedule because we've got to get 5 subcommittee reports in.
Well, if we're relatively on schedule, I'll plan on being there an hour before.
No, it's going to be relatively
I'm saying
scheduled.
how that things go, I want to fit into the context. I'm really not trying to shortchange the committee, but I can't see being there for 4 hours. I really have some other things. But anyway, okay, great. If you do,
We're certainly not asking you to be there for the whole meeting.
give me my approximate 15 minutes and I'll be there plenty early.
Perfect. Okay, Ginger.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back and get some clarity from Mark and Marge about the history document, because I didn't know if or when the rest of this subcommittee and then ultimately the work group would have an opportunity to review that. I think, from my perspective, from Republic Services perspective, Nancy Whitcomb's document is biased and not necessarily legally representative of our interpretation of the history of the landfill. And I have some concerns about that being included unchecked without an opportunity for whether it's me or anybody else on the subcommittee or work group to be able to notate where we find there to be inaccuracies or biased, opinionated information.
So let me ask some questions for clarification. Were you suggesting, Mark, that you were using her document, cut and paste, or were you suggesting you were going to talk to her about using, portions or snippets or sections or whatever?
Well, first of all, I may have misunderstood you last week, Sam, and this would be one of the things we seek clarification on is I understood that was actually part of the official record, which doesn't necessarily mean, everything it says is true and can't be disputed, but I understood it was sort of something that would be fair to use, but we did, that's one reason why we're gonna ask the group, is that okay to use? And, that's part of what we're gonna do that for, is because we wanna, we wanna make a history that we feel stands up. But, she's smart and has done a lot of good homework, and we feel like it could be very useful to our point. Yeah.
So I will send out, after this meeting, an email I got from county council on these issues. And then you can read that and make your own decisions if you agree with it, disagree with it, what have you. So I don't in the moment remember what I said. People can go back and review the tape, but I will tell you right now, my intent is to say that Nancy Whitcomb's document, she asserted I believe she called it a work product privilege to her material. And she handed out a document at a work group meeting. I asked her for that document and she declined to provide it. I asked Vance as to whether or not, what was the process in county protocols under that. And he said that when she handed it out, it became a public record. That public record, or her document, was attached to the meeting minutes of that particular meeting. And so it is part of a public record. The interplay between public records, work product, and copyright is not a topic I'm going to opine on. I will just send you what Vance has written, and you can have, I'll get you, Joel, when it's your turn. Your hand's up already, so I see it. I will send you that, and we can have further discussions about what you need to do or not do with that in mind.
Okay.
Andrew, did you have something? And then I'll
Yeah,
follow up.
I had a follow-up, but Joel can go first because I don't want to dominate the conversation here.
No, go.
I guess my point is, I believe Nancy's, my personal opinion is that Nancy's document is part of the public record. And so I certainly understand why that would be something that you would want to take a look at. What I am questioning is that Republic Services has written documents detailing our view of the landfill history, and I've not heard any mention of including that. Other members of the subcommittee have included work documents, and I have not heard any mention of including that in the landfill history. And I get very concerned when I hear people who are putting together this report, which is supposed to presumably be representative of this entire subcommittee, saying, well, I think she makes good points and it represents our view. Well, who is our? Because our is not me. And I don't speak for any members of the other subcommittee, but I can tell you that other members of the work group might not feel that our is all inclusive in this case. And so all I'm asking is, at what point do the other members of the subcommittee and the work group get to look at what is produced and say, hey, we feel like this is not necessarily right down the middle with what we would be willing to support, or we feel like this is missing context or information, because I think other people should have the opportunity to provide that input.
Hey, Jim.
I agree.
Stuff. We're not closing off any avenues of information coming in. Let me just say that. These other ones have come up as part of the discussions. That's why I mentioned those specifically.
Well, Sam appended them. Sam sent them to us. Sam did not send to us your Republic Services documents. So can you submit them?
Wait,
But the other thing is, I mean, we also agreed to report to the work group, on January 9th?
I think so. Yeah, I recall that being an early
Yeah,
January date.
yeah, and we fully, intend to do that.
So I think we're having several conversations at the same time. I might try to parse them out. So the history I got from Republic is in fact was part of the notes from your inaugural meeting of this subcommittee and appears on the website. So you have those documents.
Yes, but we don't know which document you're talking about when you say that Republic Services document. I mean, it'd be really, really nice if we received exactly what it is you want us to have.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's
Listen.
perfectly reasonable, Marge. We can have, there's so much that's been produced by so many people
Yes,
that yeah, we
exactly.
can absolutely
Yes.
send that over, because I know I'm completely, you already know, I've lost like 3 or 4 different documents already in terms of being able to track where things are, so.
Okay, just to be clear, because we're spinning a little bit here. The literal document from Republic Services on the history piece is part of the notes, copy and pasted into the notes you received after the first meeting. There's also a link to it
I missed it, sorry.
on the website. So that's why I'm trying to make it clear. You already have it, copy and pasted literally from a document that they submitted. So that's the first piece. The second piece, I do not envision that Marge and Mark, and correct me if I'm wrong, are sending a draft, bringing a draft of their document to the work group on December 15th. Correct? You're not actually, you're bringing an outline, of the concepts for what the history piece will look like, correct?
What I just said is what we were planning on doing on the 15th.
Right, it's an outline. It's not, you're not doing substance and filling in the blanks. Therefore, once Mark and Marge do the first actual draft, picking things from column A, column B, column C, their own work group, that will be vetted by this whole subcommittee and voted on or polled upon. And so absolutely each Ginger's team and every other team will be able to say that I question that fact, here's my resource, what have you. And you'll collaboratively work on the history document, which will formally then be given, hopefully on or soon after early January to the full work group. So I'm hoping that clarifies that. I don't think there's a disagreement here on how the process is going to work. Mark.
Can you tell me the name of the document on the website? That is the Republic Services document. There is none with the words Republic Services in it that I can see.
Mark, actually going through some of the documents that we produced that are on the website, because I have to go back and find them too, and I'm dropping them in the chat. But that way you'll at least have the direct link to the things that I had in my mind as I was referring to.
Okay, that'd be great.
It's a lot to sort through, and I'm trying to go back to and say, okay, I remember we wrote something about this. Where is it? So.
Okay, and then Millie, I can show you where the link is for the meeting minutes this time. But literally, they've sent in a bunch of documents called Common Understandings, and the only one that deals with, and very long documents. The portion that deals with the history is about 2/3 of a page, and that is what I copy and pasted into our meeting notes. All right. Ginger, do you have anything else before Joel?
No, I think actually Mark and Marge and I are rather on the same page. I really wanted to have a sense of when we were going to come together, and it sounds like it obviously will be after January because nobody can produce anything in 3 days, but well, unless you do it all day long. But I just wanted to have a sense of like when, I, as my, company FLAC representative, would be able to say, hey, we don't necessarily agree with that, and we think it should reflect our belief here or whatever.
Great.
That-
Joel,
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think there's only one member of the Oregon Bar here, and I hate to be giving legal advice, but I really think you're off base here. And there's plenty of case law on public records that have included copyrighted material, and that doesn't necessarily preclude copyright. So, and I noticed even in the minutes that you sent out, you had copyright spelled wrong. So I'm not sure. And the opinion of the Benton County Council, he's been wrong on other things, and he could be wrong on this too. It's not his area of specialty. So I would just caution you on that. And please respect the wishes of the person who submitted those documents.
let me be pristine in my clarity, you Joel, bringing up the fact that Millie made a typo in the notes.
Oh, good
Really,
grief.
it's not helpful. Okay, it's not helpful. It's not helpful. And
Is it you're blaming on Millie?
Oh, it
you're-
was me. I'm the one that types it up.
Yeah, but Sam, you're the one who sends it out. It's your responsibility.
Okay, well, put a note in my permanent record, Joel, that
I
I
will.
allowed the typo to go forward. The second piece, I never gave you a legal opinion on anything. I repeated that what Vance Crony told me. So don't caution me on giving legal advice when I'm not doing it. Thirdly, I'm going to send what Vance's email said, and I said, and I believe this is a quote, you can do with that whatever you want to do with that. And that includes accepting it, rejecting it, sending another email, do whatever you want, but do not again put words in my mouth when
I didn't put any words in your mouth, Sam. Stop
Yeah.
doing that to me. You're being ridiculous.
Yeah, okay, well, this conversation is getting nowhere. And it's over on this particular issue. The final thing, Mary and Louise, are you guys going to do a tag team, or are you going to are you going to assign one of you, which you're free to do so?
Mean to present it?
To the presentation itself, so we know who the spokesperson or persons are.
Oh, I don't care, whatever Mary I can or Mary can, that's fine. But I have a question. So Mary and I were talking about communicating on the side about this. Is that okay to do, or does it have to be? Okay.
Go for it. And then Mark and Marge, will you have a written, I would prefer that you have a written something to hand out and not just read off what you're thinking about, because some people are auditory, some people are visual, and having the written record would be helpful. And again, I'm not asking for a multi-page document, a 1 or 2 page or whatever you think is appropriate.
I'll have a 1-pager.
Great. And if you get that to us by 10, I can get it posted to the website, and I can get it copied so people have physical copies for them.
Yes.
That's it.
Anything else on the agenda? Last call?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, of course.
It's a big question, I think, though. So, and maybe this is for the main group, but I was like finally having time to read a lot of stuff. And so one of the things you gave us to read was what I think some county, Darren and some other people had put together. And one part of it said, oh, it was the thing about 150 day, all about the CUP and how much time we had used before and what happened before. And they said that they wanted us to, the work committee, to identify elements needing to be considered to deem the landfill application complete. And so then probably everybody else knows all this stuff, but I just haven't had time to read everything. I read through a lot of things. And of course, there was all these things that need to be, or that the planning commission did say, like, you know, we're not okaying the CUP because of, you know, this list of things. So somewhere is on one of the other committees, are they addressing the list of those things, like someone else assessing that?
So it sounds like that is in the scope of the legal subcommittee. If I'm understanding what you're looking
Like
for.
assessing, so like they said, for example, the neighbors, you know, and I know we've been, you know, we went on the tours and we've heard from the public. So all the things the public are saying, like the air quality, the noise, the odor, was Republic Services was saying, well, our studies said it's fine, and the neighborhood said, and other people say those studies aren't fine. And so where are we coming in the middle there? That's my question. Because if we do the CUP, again, those same things are going to come up in the county. I know this whole process is supposed to be giving us this information, but I don't know, I haven't seen where the information is coming from, I guess.
Well,
like-
there's two subcommittees that are looking into issues related to that.
Okay, good.
One is the legal subcommittee, which is dealing with what is it within the jurisdiction of the county, what is it in the jurisdiction of other state agencies like DEQ. The CUP compliance subcommittee is also looking into DEQ compliance related issues, because one of the conditions in at least one or more of the CUPs relates to, it says something like comply with your DEQ permits. So the CUP subcommittee is going and requesting information from DEQ to look at, did they comply with the permits? And so you will be receiving documents, you know, around January 3rd, the work product. And there are, just so you know, it's right up, I think it's around 154 pages of documents summarized from various sources that they'll be putting forward and coming together.
As in, like, I guess my thought was if the DEQ information is not what the county or the planning commission wanted to hear, and the Republic studies aren't what, you know, it didn't, there need to be another party, like a third party, or more assessments by some other people. And I didn't know if they had decided that yet, or what that was going to be part of the recommendation at all.
So one of the charges for the legal subcommittee is to make recommendations as to what the planning official, which right now is Darren, should consider before it deems an application complete. I don't know, I haven't looked carefully enough to know what they have said so far on that issue, but they could make they can make a recommendation. So within their purview to make a recommendation that the things that a planning official should consider where appropriate, depending on the CUP, should include or could include ... So we'll see what their draft comes up with, and then the whole work group side, that doesn't make sense, nonsense, doesn't need to be amended.
Okay, so that's probably why that comment was in the document that you sent out, because they're the ones working on that then.
I think that's correct, yes. Marge.
Sorry, I didn't know I had my hand up.
Oh.
I had nothing. I have nothing. Good news.
And then make sure everyone sees the chat. She's gonna put out information and send it to Marge and Mark and everyone to do that. So that will be helpful. So it's all in one place.
I was just going to ask if I needed to send that via email, but it sounds like Marge copied everything into a Word document. So it sounds like she's already 2 steps ahead of me.
I did put it into a Word document and I can send it. I was gonna send it to Mark for sure, but I can send it to everybody. You know, and I just copied and pasted what Ginger put in the chat.
You
May
know,
I ask a question of Joel real fast?
Okay, well, let me finish this.
Sure, Ginger.
Question. I'll get Joel in a second. She has a question from.
I just want to note that definitely want to have the Word document, but if for any reason we miss one or you can't find that Word document, when we post the recording for this Zoom meeting, the meeting chat and everything that was in it is also.
Okay, great,
Nothing will be lost.
excellent.
So fire away, Ginger.
So just because I want to be like fully transparent and make sure that we're, you know, adhering to what you want here, because I know the copyright issue is very important to you. One of the documents I did put in the chat was the responses to the questions that were asked at the landfill tour and the questions that were asked at the neighborhood tour, because we had combined all of those into one sort of grid-shaped document, and there were some historical related questions in there. Obviously, I wrote it for Republic Services. County staff wrote it on behalf of the county, but I believe you were the author of the neighborhood tour responses. And so I realized after I dropped it into the chat, I didn't know if that was something that you were okay with us using, or Marge and Mark using as part of this process, if there was something relevant that they found in there. That was my question.
Yeah, thanks, Ginger. I mean, you can take almost everything I've said out of respect to you personally, because I think you're actually a very capable person. I know you're a good journalist and you're a good PR representative for Republic Services. And those were not entirely my own responses. I had some help from other people on those. My actual concern in all this process is that you as Republic Services person would be in position of editing my documents. And that's kind of all, simply, that's what it's all about. And I have a lot of respect for you. But I just, as someone who produced documents, I feel like, you know, we're not on the same side. And so I want to preserve my editorial integrity. That's all.
Yeah, I get that. Totally understandable from my perspective. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want somebody editing my stuff either. I guess my only question at this point is, now that I've brought that information to Mark and Marge's attention, are you okay with them using, if they need to, the answers, like, because I'm not authoring that document, right? If the answers that are in the neighborhood tour questions, like, that's the only thing. Should I have not shared that, or do we need to keep that like kind of separate, sort of like your work product that you had produced previously?
Yeah, I mean, it's all a question of the editorial chain to me. And so if I have confidence in the editors, then I'm okay with it. That's where I'm at.
Okay, that was my only question. So
Thanks.
cool.
okay, Joel, do you trust us or not? I mean, if we can't use it, that's okay. We can go without it, but you just mentioned that second document you dropped in.
Yeah, so far so good, Mark.
Okay,
I've what I've seen from you tonight and what I've heard is all good. So I'm okay with that. I'm just not sure how this subcommittee functions. And originally when this whole thing came up, the idea was that the main BCTT group was, everyone on that group would have the chance to veto or plus or minus whatever they thought of things. And then it seems like things got farmed out to these subcommittees, And I have not been clear on where the authority in the subcommittee is. So that's where I've been stuck. And, you know, if I knew that when things came to the full subcommittee, I would have a chance to veto any line that I want to, that would be one thing. But since it seems like it's different, that's why I'm taking this position. Sorry if anybody wondered why I was taking that position, but that's why.
Well, whatever you use, you'll be able to see before it goes final. I can tell you.
No, I appreciate that. That's actually that's exactly what I'm asking for, is the chance to actually look at any revisions.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
Mark.
I think, Mark, that was the same thing. That was like my point earlier on, was like, okay, if you're going to use what Nancy, wrote, then do I get to weigh in with what I want to say? Not necessarily like, demand, because obviously I can't do that. That's something be stricken or removed. But like, would I be able to add a footnote or say, hey, I think, this is germane to that particular line item, and can we include this notation? So that's, I think even though we're on opposite sides of the issue, most likely, I think Joel and I are probably coming at it with the same sort of mentality and concern, that we both want to make sure that whatever final work product is produced, that it is reflective of what we feel very strongly about in terms of deviations, conflicts, or agreements. So, and Mark, I think honestly, that was one of the reasons you were brought into the subcommittee too, was, in the first meeting, I'd said, hey, if you want me to try to put something together, I will, but I'm only going to do it if the rest of the work group or the rest of the subcommittee is comfortable. And, the sense I got pretty immediately was that, like, Marge was not comfortable with that, which I totally respect. And so I think, that was where the discussion we created this discussion of, well, is there somebody else that should come in that perhaps would be more, of a neutral party to try to put this together? And so I think that, we're kind of full circle back around to where we started from this.
Last call.
It's all good.
All right, go forth, do good. See you soon.
Hi.
Everyone say.